Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. Burt Wonderstone, played by Steve Carell, and Anton Marvelton, played by Steve Buscemi, who have a successful Vegas magic show, and then street magician, as he's called, Steve Gray, played by Jim Carrey, comes onto the scene and starts taking their audience away since they're the old hat magicians and he is the new hip kind of Chris Angel-esque magician, and it slowly is dwindling their audience, so they try to do kind of new tricks and that fails miserably and they break up, and Burt Wonderstone has to find himself and find his love of magic again to like bring his act back and bring himself back to the forefront of magic. A lot of comedies right now want to be like 80s and 90s comedies, and they usually fail pretty miserably. The Incredible Burt Wonderstone actually achieves at being kind of a 90s comedy. It achieves the thing that like Identity Thief wishes it could achieve. Now, I don't think this is an amazing film. I don't think this is a great film. I think this is a good, serviceable comedy. Sure, it's very predictable. You know everybody's going to be happy in the end, and you know you're going to have a few goofy laughs. And maybe the direction isn't on par for what it possibly could have been, and the script's a little shaky, but I think it's pretty good at what it's trying to achieve, and I like that about Burt Wonderstone. It's actually one of the few comedies that I didn't leave going like, God, it was like that would never end. They'd have too many scenes I didn't like, and it doesn't have kind of a hugely negative, mean tone to it. I don't really like the writers of this film, or at least the credited writers, which is John Francis Daley, who was Sam Weir in Freaks and Geeks, and Jonathan Goldenstein, who also wrote Horrible Bosses, which I did not really like at all. I thought it was pretty badly written, but apparently they rewrote a screenplay that had been in development since 2006. Jason Reitman came in after them and did some rewrites. And I think one of the strongest points of the script, you have kind of a strong foundation of Burt Wonderstone. You start off with him as a little kid, you understand why he fell in love with magic and what drew him to magic and why he loves magic. And you have this foundation of him as a character. And no one's as well established as Burt Wonderstone. It lets you kind of build an attachment to Burt Wonderstone, so that when he's older and he's a total douchebag, you still kind of like him. Because if they had just started without the intro with them as being little kids in the early 80s, I do not think this movie would work as well. And it was a really smart idea to have that in there. There's parts that don't sing as well as others. The script really worked well when it had these major plot points of conflict, which are important. So I think that's what like certainly helped the movie. And like when Anton and Burt Wonderstone are kind of having their falling out, that scene really worked. And when he has this showdown against Jim Carrey's character at James Gandolfini's son's birthday party, really drew me in and was funny. Because Burt Wonderstone at least knows what's important, a lot of the stuff between what's important doesn't really have the same flair that the stuff that you need to draw the audience in with does. It's funny, most of the times I see comedy movies, I feel like they're directed by TV directors, and they're directed by people who are motion picture directors, and this is directed by a TV director, and it feels more like a movie than a lot of comedy movies are. He's directed a lot of 30 Rock episodes apparently, and a lot of other TV. I don't think he's the best director for this job. I kind of feel like if you had a stronger director, this movie could have been more than just, you know, a good, serviceable kind of comedy, reliable comedy. There's a lot of scenes, like particularly the scene where Steve Carell first talks to Olivia Wilde in the box and like swords are coming in. If they had just stayed on that shot, that would have been a great comedic moment there. He would cut to stuff that you're like, who cares about this? Like, this is kind of unnecessary. You're like making the scene far more complicated than it needs to be. It wasn't the best directed comedy in the world, but he was a lot better than most comedies I've seen in a while, and he stayed away from the Apatow crap, which I really like. This is an Apatow-free comedy almost. I think if this film had come out like years and years ago, I wouldn't like it as much. It's just because of like the comedy film landscape at this time. I think we need something a little more like this, a little less like Apatow. This film kind of relies on these reliable comedic actors, from Steve Carell to Jim Carrey to Alan Arkin. I mean, Alan Arkin's basically doing the same role he did in Little Miss Sunshine and the same role he did in Argo, you know, this grumpy old man who can always, you know, curse like a sailor and stop everyone with one of his like smart one-liners. You can tell all these actors are kind of good comedic actor workhorses. This might not be their best work, but they're talented enough. It's not a great comedy, but it's a good comedy. I don't think I would say it's Tommy Boy. Maybe it's a little more Black Sheep than Tommy Boy. Sometimes that's all you really want from a comedy, and I didn't expect much from Burt Wonderstone, but I like its attitude about it. It's not making fun of magicians. I think maybe a lot of people are seeing this because, you know, magicians are stupid, haha. There's kind of a level of respect to it. Like, they're not just making fun of them because they're magicians. They have a little bit more in there, a little bit more in their character to make this funny. It doesn't feel like it was shot in a month. It doesn't feel as cheap as its budget probably was or anything. You know, when I heard, I think it cost like 30 million, I was actually surprised it cost so little, which for most comedies, and I hear the budget, I don't know where the money's spent. It's like wanting like a ham sandwich, just a good ham sandwich that's toasted. And Burt Wonderstone is like a good ham sandwich. You know, you get your fries, you're satisfied, and then, you know, you go back to work and you're like, that was nice, I'm ready to take on the day. And that's how I felt after seeing Burt Wonderstone. I was like, I can take on the world. I wasn't expecting much. I was kind of like, oh, I'm so sick of mainstream comedies. It gave me kind of like a jump in my step. It gave me kind of something that I want to see more comedies. You know, I can take on more comedies after seeing Burt Wonderstone. So if you have seen The Incredible Burt Wonderstone and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.